Hello, welcome to Lost Bell Boxing. Today's video is about Terrance Crawford leaving Top Rank and the clamour for his signature from potential promoters. So, obviously, rumour has it that Mayweather's already rang Crawford after his latest fight to tap him up. But Chris, talk to me. What do you think the future looks like for Crawford?
To look at Crawford's future, I think we've got to look at his past, and how he broke up with Bob Arum was pretty poor, actually, to be fair. But maybe that's just stereotypical of the relationship which they had, because Bob Arum wouldn't invest in Terrance Crawford, so Terrance Crawford didn't invest in Bob Arum, So to then turn around after the press conference against Porter and basically just say, I'm a free agent, I'm gone now, took Bob Arum probably by surprise. But I don't think Bob Arum's going to be crying about it. His pay-per-view fight, which he had against Pistol, was one of the lowest selling pay-per-views. I think Bob Arum's actually been paying him probably more money than he's generating for his last few fights. So I think it was probably time for it to come to an end. Crawford's so talented, though. You look at him now, 3-weight champion, undisputed after he beat Julius Ndongu, took him out in the third round, and he deserved to become a superstar after that. And he didn't. He turned around and he fought Jeff Horn for his next fight or whatever, and that is not like a superstar's fight. So, I can understand people not clambering for Crawford. I would be surprised if even Eddie Hearn had phoned him and said, come and sign with me. I don't know where Crawford goes next. I think he thinks he's a bigger star than he is. It wouldn't surprise me if he started his own promotional company and tried to do a little bit of self-marketing, because, we've seen that happening when Ricky Hatton did it. We've seen it happening with Floyd Mayweather. Canelo's done it. Even Caleb Plant's done it. So that seems to be the way the guys think they can get revenue. And I think Terrance Crawford will do potentially something like that to allow him to get the Errol Spence fight. Because the big thing when he left Top Rank, wasn't it? He says, I am leaving you because you've not delivered me this one fight. That is what he wants. He sees it as a legacy fight. He also sees it as a fight that can probably deliver him somewhere around the region of $10 million. And that's what he wants now. He wants big money, big fights. The next fight for Crawford's going to be very interesting. I've got a kind of sneaking suspicion, though, that he will get the Spence fight this year. I'm not sure if it'll be his next fight necessarily, but I think the two guys want it, and Spence needs to get it to get his career moving as well now, because after the car accident, he's a walking miracle, as we've said before. How he got out of that car is unbelievable, but he needs to actually do something in the ring to get people talking about him rather than driving under the influence. So I can see Crawford versus Spence coming late 2020, and who'll promote it? I really don't know. Maybe it's one of these fights that's going to be picked up by an Al Heyman type, because he's worked very, very closely with Spence in the past. And he almost made Spence a poster boy for PBC at one point. So, if anything, I think Crawford won't sign a long-term contract with anybody. I think he's probably seen what's happened with Mikey Garcia and Top Rank in the past, because they had a huge fallout, which really put, the scuppers on Mikey Garcia's contract. So I can see Crawford maybe signing a one-fight deal, maybe one fight plus rematch with Spence, and then keeping himself as a free agent. But a hell of a talented guy, and when you look at his record, 38-0, and still people, 3-weight world champion, and still people aren't talking about him. What's he done wrong,
It just shows you, Chris, how important the commercial side of boxing is.
Absolutely. And I'm sure he can't walk around Omaha, Nebraska without getting stopped. But genuinely, and not trying to show off or anything, I met him in Las Vegas. I was the only person that went up and spoke to him. And that is unbelievable. And I was in a shopping centre with my wife, and I said, that's Terrance Crawford over there. And he was standing on his own, and it was a fight weekend, and nobody was speaking to him. And that is something which is crazy. And I'll tell you something, he was a really nice guy, because I said to him, and you can hear my Scottish accent, I was at your Ricky Burns fight, and the two of us stood and watched his ring entrance on my phone for Ricky Burns, which I'd recorded. So he stood and chatted away, but he was totally unrecognised, and it shocked me to the core. And there was two massive fights that weekend. Devin Alexander was fighting Amir Khan. This is in 2014. And Andy Lee was fighting Korobov, and Timothy Bradley was fighting. Vegas was full of fight fans that weekend.
Yeah.
And as I say, nobody even approached him. Crazy.
That just shows that what a shocking job's been done on his profile, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts?
I think a lot of that is his own doing. You know, you've got certain fighters out there that are gobshites, and that annoys me to an extent. Teofimo Lopez kind of springs to mind, but everybody knows who Teofimo Lopez is in the boxing world. You know, because he makes them know. Terrance Crawford isn't interested in self-promotion. He's not interested. He thinks his promotion team should do all of that for him. And to an extent, he should. The way it ended with Top Rank was awful. And it was very disrespectful to Bob Arum, the way that press conference went. There's no need for that. He didn't cover himself in glory for me there. You know, he could have just put a smile on, moved away, gone and done his thing. He didn't need to, you know. I mean, for God's sake, Bob Arum's a 90-year-old guy now.
And the trouble, I've got a bit of a problem with Top Rank and the way they promote fighters, because you'd argue that they're very looking at Tyson Fury as a self-marketing machine. Because and the same with Frank Warren, that generation, what did they do to that's where Eddie Hearn sticks out for me.
It is, but Eddie Hearn's the one-off. No American promoter, no American promoter does anything like Eddie Hearn does.
No,
None of them, not a single one of them, builds a story about a fighter. None of them do it. You know, they leave it down to the media, the likes of us doing interviews to build that fighter's profile. They expect the fighter to do that himself.
Yeah.
Terrance Crawford's never ever going to be an household name because he's not a self-promoter. He's not a big talker. He seems like a dead genuine, down-to-earth guy that doesn't big himself up. He lets his talking in the ring. He lets the talking happen in the ring, which is great because everybody that inside boxing knows how good he is. He's right up there, pound for pound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right up there. But the problem is, the rest of America don't know anything about him.
You've either got to have a mouthpiece like Eddie Hearn, or you've got to be able to talk yourself.
Yeah.
And that's just what Terrance Crawford doesn't do. But, you know, Carol, you make a good point, Carol, about Top Rank in America. You know, I've been over to Vegas so many times for fights, and a lot of Top Rank shows, they don't promote. And even in Vegas on Fight Week, they'll maybe have some banners on bus stops, or, you know, maybe a bus goes up and down the strip once in a while. But you could be in Vegas and you could have 1 million visitors at Vegas that weekend who don't even know there's a big fight going on. Yeah. You know, so I do think Top Rank aren't great at promoting, and I think that's Bob Arum. There is some arrogance to Bob Arum because of his age and, you know, the different maybe he just doesn't understand the kind of demographic that would buy into boxing at this day and age. You know, I don't know, but I've been there, and I went over to see Vasyl Lomachenko fighting on the undercard of Timothy Bradley and Brandon Rios in the Thomas and Mack. There was only about 3,000 people there.
Yeah.
And it holds 20,000 people.
On social media, Chris, you don't see Top Rank. You don't see many posts. You know, they're not in your face. And they've got the biggest name in world boxing, well, second biggest, in Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
The thing is, quite clearly, the American promoters either don't want to, don't know how to, or can't afford to put the publicity out there.
I don't believe it's can't afford for 1 minute, not the contracts that they've got some of their fighters on.
Yeah, but the problem is, Cole, that when they're coming up against bigger sports in America that mean more to people, American football, basketball, they're their number one sports, without a shadow of a doubt. Boxing is a second thought nowadays in America to the majority of people. It's a sad thing, but it is.
But social media campaigns aren't exactly expensive, are they?
They're not, but they could be run better. I think that with Top Rank, what's quite interesting, when you read the book by Donald Stradley, The War, he talks about how Top Rank actually try and hedge their bets with things. They sell campaigns to other people. They sell the pay-per-views to other people. The closed circuit, they don't run that themselves. They try and hedge their bets to stop losing money. So money does come into it, I think, with Top Rank, probably more than anything else. I think what we've probably seen closest to Eddie Hearn was Golden Boy. When they were at their peak, Oscar was everywhere, Richard Schaefer was everywhere.
What about Don King? Don King was a marketing machine.
Don King was a legend in boxing, obviously, the man himself. Eddie,
can you imagine now, with all this social media at his fingertips, he would have been everywhere.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there. There's no bigger mouthpiece ever in boxing than Don King. Whether you liked him or not, or disagreed with him or not, or like the way he went about building fights and making fighters and then destroying fighters, which happened on more than one occasion. You can't dispute the fact he made the biggest heavyweight fights in the world.
And also in an era where it was a lot harder to gain publicity, because now social media can take you around the world like that.
Yeah. And one thing that we don't appreciate, though, is King did it with King Vision, which was his own TV company. Now, we got it on ITV and we got it on Sky, but in America, he was running his own pay-per-view shows on his own channel.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing about Don King is really he's a big faker, isn't he? You know what I mean? Like, he promised Ali £5 million, to fight the Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman. When he never even had any of that money, I'll take you there and I'll do this. He bullshitted his way at the top. But when he got there, he still delivered on these big fights. And, I genuinely miss the 14, 15 fights which Don King used to put on in these big cards with the Terry Norrises and all these guys. He was a brilliant promoter. But
yeah, the point I make, though, is that it's achievable, isn't it? We all knew about Don King over this side of the Atlantic, and we didn't have internet then.
Yeah. And he sold himself, didn't he? He made himself unique with his hair, his chains, his flags,
bigger than life, wasn't it? Profile, bigger than life.
Yeah.
Well, if Terrance Crawford thinks that going to Mayweather Promotions is going to do anything more for him than Top Rank, he's going to find a quick shock very quickly, because they've done nothing for Tank.
See, what's interesting about Mayweather Promotions is you got Floyd Mayweather sat there who arguably could sell him, really sold himself as a fighter, brilliant at promoting himself. But it seems to be Leonard Ellerby that does all the talking.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, it's very American-centric, Leonard Ellerby, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't really get that dynamic, to be honest. Does Floyd pay a lot of attention to his promotional company? Is it just a toy? Tank Davis can't really talk. He don't really sell himself.
You know what? Mayweather Promotions stink of a company that is scared to put their top fighters in against top fighters from other promotions because they don't want to lose that payday. They don't want to lose that cash cow.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's exactly it. And as you say, Ellerby, he talks about, predominantly African-American fighters. He never ever talks about any other race of fighters, and we don't want to get into that type of debate, but he's very close-minded in what he actually focuses on. And, you don't see the company doing anything great, so I think it'd be the completely wrong decision for Crawford to go there, because Mayweather uses it for self-promotion. And that's the only time you ever really see him coming into the fore. Other than that, everything's with Leonard Ellerby. It's one of these things where what would be best for Terrance Crawford? I think Terrance Crawford's probably been a little bit naive in his career, thinking if I do it in the ring, the riches and the acclaim will follow. And it's just not. And he's now sitting back thinking, 3-weight world champion, why does nobody know me? Why are people not clambering for my signature? It's because you've not talked about yourself and bigged yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see Crawford not signing with anybody.
I think that.
Yeah.
I think he'll just do a fight per fight. And I don't ever see him fighting Spence.
He'll adopt the Canelo approach, where he may go to DAZN or something like that, but with the agreement that he can fight on other platforms.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
He's got to get Spence. If he doesn't get Spence, people will look at him and say, your career is unfulfilled.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I don't think either of them, they say they want it. I don't think either of them really want it.
I know I say this a lot, but what does Roberto always say?
If the two fighters want it, nothing can stop the fight.
Yeah. But I think they both of them want it here. They need it. Both of them need it.
Yep.
I think there's more chance of Terrance Crawford fighting Josh Taylor. And I think
that's virtually over the line, Adu.
I think it happens in 2 fights' time.
Yeah,
it's the only thing that Josh Taylor said the other day on BBC. It's the only fight that's left for him. He's done everything now at 140. He's got to go to 147.
Yep.
And I think there was a lot to be said about them meeting in the dressing room and that being publicised and shown the medias. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'll bring the video to the end there. Okay. Just a quick reminder that we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. So if you want to come and join us all on camera and have these debates like this, you're more than welcome. See you next time.